Hey Flight Pro fans, I'm going to show you the X18 today. This is our custom combo kit that comes pre-bound with a receiver for the Ranger 1220 from FMS. And this transmitter comes in this case here. When you open it, you've got your transmitter, your receiver, you've got a lanyard here, and some stickers. On the front here it says make sure the battery is connected, so we can remove that sticker. Flip the transmitter over, pull the cover off, check the battery here. It's just got a balance port connector that goes into the right here with the red wire on the left. You can just push that in, tuck the wires into the cavity. The battery cover back on, and power on by pressing and holding for a couple of seconds.
Welcome to Ethos. Switch warning, throttle active.
So if you get the transmitters from us with the custom profiles already loaded, we've already set all of your fail-safes and your checklist warnings. So this tells you which switches are out of place. We've got
stabilization on.
SA, so we typically don't have it set up, and these are all changeable parameters, but we typically don't have it set up on self-level mode right out of the box. So SA, and let's see, this one doesn't have flaps, so that one's not going to matter. SF
throttle
is
disabled.
the throttle cut. So the throttle cut, we want throttle cut on and stabilization in stabilized only out of the box, so that we don't have any propellers moving when they shouldn't be. So here's the transmitter. Here's our profile set up. You can see we've got a picture of the Ranger already on it. We've got Flight Pro logoing. We've got this here, which is our telemetry for our battery voltage. And it's not going to say anything right now because our receiver is not powered on. And we've got the red throttle cut, which is activated right now. When we go to throttle active, it turns green, and then it gives us our parameters for our servo outputs and all of our controls here.
Throttle disable.
All right, I'll go over the controls and features on this radio. So we've got the top left set up for your stabilizer, and this does have the TD SR6. It's a 6-channel stabilized receiver. It's got
stabilization off.
Stabilization off is all the way down.
Stabilization on.
Stabilized mode is in the center.
Self-level mode.
Self-level mode is all the way up. So stabilized mode in the center is going to help with wind correction, little bumps and stuff in the air here and there. And then self-level mode is literally going to level the aircraft. Built into self-level mode, we also have a panic button on this plane and built into this transmitter profile. So if you're in stabilization or in stabilization off, you have 2 momentary buttons on the back of the transmitter here. This is your right hand would hold and your left hand. The right one,
self-level mode. If
you press and hold the button, it holds it into self-level mode. So it's kind of a good way of having a panic built into it. So if you're not in self-level mode already, you're flying, you get yourself into a situation where you're not sure what to do immediately, you can click that button and the airplane will self-level itself immediately. So that's a great panic setup. We've also got rates set up.
Medium rate, low rate.
So all the way up is low rate.
Medium rate.
Medium rate in the center.
High rate.
High rate all the way down. Low rates, so around 50%, medium rate 70% throws, and then high rate 100% throws. You can fly around to your liking if you're beginner to advanced, or if you just want to have less of a sensitive aircraft, you can use those dual rates there. These other switches for the Ranger itself, there's not a whole lot of other features that are necessary for this plane, but these are fully programmable 3-position switches for something like flaps if you wanted with a more advanced aircraft, or other landing gear and stuff like that. And then we do have your throttle cut is this top left button here in the back. It's a 2-position. Throttle active and throttle disabled. And then
student's plane, instructor's plane.
This one is programmed and set up for a buddy box system if you wanted to do that. We've also built in a sensitivity adjustment for the stabilized mode. So when your switch is here in the center position, stabilized on,
stabilization off, stabilization on,
you have these buttons here that are momentary buttons that can be pressed
55%, 60%,
up and down to raise and lower the sensitivity of the stabilization the gyro correction for wind correction and stuff like that. So if you take the aircraft and you were to wiggle the tail back and forth while you change that setting, here, lower and higher, you can see that the higher the sensitivity is, the rudder will move further for that wind correction. And you can adjust that on the fly during flight to your liking. In some of the smaller planes like this one that fly a little bit slower, you won't see as big of a difference as you would with something like a jet that moves very quickly, that can sometimes get a speed wobble if the gyro is overcompensating too quickly, and you can turn down that sensitivity to help keep that plane flying a little more stable. One of the other features that we've got is on-the-fly telemetry for the voltage. I've got a 2S battery here, which is low for the airplane that we've got loaded here. It takes a 3S battery, but this is just to show you what the critical battery warning and low battery warning will do when you plug this in. And then I'll show you once we get it into the airplane how it works in there as well. So with the receiver powered on, there is the green or turquoise wire that comes out of the receiver here. That is labeled as AIN2, and that's going to be for your telemetry. So we include a wire that's already attached to it. It can be disconnected here. It plugs in, kind of locks into place, and then this is just so you can run it to the front of the airplane for the battery. The red wire on the battery, and it doesn't matter which brand battery you're using, most of the time they've got a red wire on them. That is the red wire for the last cell in sequence. There's an FMS battery, red wire, last cell in sequence. Here's a different brand, again, red wire. So we just plug in that telemetry cable to the red wire, and you'll see on the screen it now gives us 7.57 volts in this battery. So we've got low voltage warnings when the throttle is active after 5 and 10 seconds.
Battery critical.
So 5 seconds will give you your battery critical if the battery voltage dips below 10.2, and a low battery warning if the voltage gets below 11 volts
Battery
for a 3S. The battery critical one's going to repeat every 5 seconds. The low voltage one's only going to repeat every 30 seconds. When we disable the throttle, back to throttle cut, let's say you landed your airplane when you've got a low voltage warning or a battery critical warning, and you bring it back to the bench to either work on the plane, disassemble it, whatever the case, before you disconnect the battery, you don't want a warning going off every 5 seconds. You're already on the ground, you don't care anymore. You can turn that off by disabling the throttle. You can also turn it off by lowering the volume on the transmitter itself. If you wanted to leave throttle active because you're working on something throttle related and you don't want that low voltage warning.
Throttle disabled.
So that is how the telemetry part works. We also have a telemetry button in the transmitter. Here, the one on the left, the one on the right is going to be your self-level mode.
7.6 volts.
The one on the left is going to give you your voltage at any time during flight. So if you're ever curious and you want to see where you're at, you can hit that button without looking down. It will also give you the display. Oh, I'm going to go pushing the touch screen on the X18. So the display voltage is always right there in the center on the front of the screen, even when your throttle is active. But if you don't want to look down at your screen, you can always just click that button.
7.6 volts.
And it will give you your voltage readout in your battery. Let's get this thing wired up in the plane and we'll show you how that's done. All right, so we've got the Ranger 1220. We've already pulled out the FrSky receiver and the FMS Reflex V3. So we've got basically an empty fuselage here. This is the Y harness from the aileron channel on the Reflex. And we've got our rudder. This one's no longer labeled because we've already replaced this servo, our throttle, and our elevator. Servo leads here. So we're going to grab our receiver. It'll come with double-sided tape on the back that we install, but we'll go ahead and wire this up. So reaching in here, our elevator is channel 2. So it goes from here, channel 1, channel 2, channel 3, 4, 5, 6, and the orange or yellow wire is going to be facing up. Throttle is channel 3. Rudder is channel 4. And our ailerons are channel 1. Alright, so let's get these wires out of the way. And where you had the reflex mounted previously, the way that it came from FMS, we're going to put this receiver in the same spot, and we're going to do antennas facing towards the front of the aircraft. So you peel the paper off the back of the double-sided tape and install the receiver in this location here with the antennas facing forward, and make sure it's parallel with the fuselage of the aircraft. We can zip tie or tuck any of these other wires out of the way now as you're liking for cable management. And then our telemetry wire here, the green one with the red extension on it, is going to go to the front of the aircraft. And I just run it that way. So now you can just mount your antennas to your liking, whatever you prefer, and keep your aileron leads here hanging out of the plane. So once again, your red wire here is going to plug into your balance lead, the red wire on the balance lead. You just plug that into it, tuck it away, and now you have telemetry. Once you plug in your battery,
telemetry recovered.
So the motor's engaged, but our throttle cut is on, so even if we move the throttle stick over here, the propeller's not spinning. You may notice too, the nose cone on this plane is now black. We stole a nose cone from the FMS PA18 because it doesn't require any tools to install it, and it's significantly stronger than the one that came on the plane. So if you ever need to do an upgrade, you break your nose cone, I do recommend getting the PA18 nose cone, and it's a lot stronger, a lot easier to install, and it should last you longer as long as you don't mind a black one instead of a white one. Now that the airplane's pretty much set up, ready to go, you can install the wings and go fly. All your controls have already been set up for the Ranger, and the flight stabilization system, all of your self-leveling, all of that. Obviously double check everything. As it comes, there won't be any trim set up on the transmitter because every plane is going to be set up slightly different with control rods and whatnot. So making sure that your sticks are in the center position, your flight stabilization is in an off position, you'll simply want to adjust your control rods and linkages for the length of it to make sure that all of your surfaces are straight and level. That includes your ailerons, your rudder, your elevator, your nose wheel, everything for steering and whatnot. Double check and make sure everything goes the correct direction. When you turn right, the steering wheel turns right, the rudder turns right. When you pull back on the stick, elevator goes up, forward on the stick, elevator goes down. And then test your stabilization. So you turn on stabilization. If you grab the aircraft and wiggle it back and forth, you'll see the rudder moves. If you move to the right, the rudder should go left. If you move the nose to the left, the rudder should go right. As you point the nose down, the elevator should go up. And then check self-level mode.
Self-level mode.
On a flat surface, the elevator should go up slightly in self-level mode because it wants to fly around this position, slightly nose high. That's a good recovery angle of attack for the aircraft, and it tends to just work out best that way versus flying perfectly level where the plane will slightly sink. So if you take the plane in self-level mode and point the nose down, you'll notice that the elevator goes up. Same thing if you move it left to right, the rudder will move. With your ailerons, when you point the right wing down, the aileron on the right hand side should go down to correct that. Check to make sure your throttle works.
Throttle active.
One of the parameters set in here as well is when the throttle is disabled, if your throttle is up and you engage throttle, the propeller is not going to spin. The motor is not engaged right now. Throttle needs to be brought down under 95% before it will actually engage that channel. And then once it's increased, then it'll turn on. So right now the battery voltage is showing us 11.28 volts. All right, so this one's at 11.28 volts, and I'll show you what battery sag is. This is going to pull voltage from the battery under load. Now you can see the voltage dipped down quite a bit. It's slowly recovering now that we've reduced the load on it, but we are below our warning for low voltage.
Low battery.
So now it's going to give us a low battery warning, and that kind of tells you, hey, time to think about landing. You still have plenty of power. If you come down, you mess up on your landing, you can do a go around. The low battery warning will repeat every 30 seconds while throttle is active. And then at 10.2 volts, it will also repeat every 10 seconds the battery critical. This will continue until throttle is disengaged.
Throttle disabled.
We recommend leveling the aircraft with the nose slightly high. So we use a 3S battery on its side to level the aircraft. So go into System, Device, Config in the bottom right, select Receivers, Stabilizer Config, Calibration for Stabilizer Group 1, and Level Calibration. When you choose that, you give it a few seconds, it will calibrate level. This creates a level that is slightly nose high. So if you're in a situation where you do need to use the panic button and you click it, the airplane corrects and slightly climbs under higher throttle. This also gives a great landing characteristic if you're using self-level mode for landing. It will allow you to come in slightly nose high using power for a good control over the aircraft where you can set it down really gently.
Stabilization on. Stabilization on. High rate. Yeah.